Hi everyone, it's Paul Norris here. Just wanted to say hello and say a big thanks to everyone in New Zealand and everywhere else that's been streaming my album Your Life. And I just wanted to say a few things about it. And as I said, thanks to everyone who's checked it out so far. Recorded in Melbourne, and it gave me a chance during the restricted activities of the lockdown to go through some songs that I'd performed in a 50-50 cover band and originals and covers band in Melbourne in pubs, doing it live and interstate gig and so forth. So we did a bit of that sort of thing and supported some of the larger bands around town, which was great. So in that process, the boys backed me up, and I contributed songs to their original repertoire, and that's where all this came from, basically. And then after the band broke up, I wrote other songs and other things. And then during lockdown, I wrote some new songs, and then it was a time for review. So a chance to look at what I'd written and maybe reinterpret some of those songs that had been performed live on stage before from scratch, and then things that I've had over the years where I've written songs and it's time to record them or present them in a better way than they were on a cassette demo or whatever, as you've heard before from others. So I'm just doing the same sort of thing. So I'll run through the tracks, and I guess let's start with track 1, And I Know. That's a new song, and that was written during the lockdowns, and it's to do with acknowledging the situation that we're in. We were forced to not travel, restricted on travel. We were forced to do things that perhaps were restrictive over certain periods of time there that were inconvenient, to say the least. But I thought eventually, there's the light out there amongst the gloom, which is one of the lines in the song. So the song's a bit of a piano riff. It's like a rocking boat, and there's a synth saxophone in there, and I guess a little instrumental break, and just a sort of a gentle ease in to the 13 tracks. So track 1 is a piano song, and I guess I could say it was loosely inspired by classical piano that I'd heard, Beethoven or whatever, but I'm not claiming to be a classical aficionado. But certainly the idea of having more of a funky bass line behind the piano, which sounded a bit vaguely classical, was the idea. And that's And I Know. Track 2, Seven Stones. It's a guitar song. There's not much keyboard going on. It's all guitar, and I've got 2 main instrumental breaks there. So it was a chance to do a typical standard lead break, and then the second time round it was just go for it. I just did anything spontaneously, and it worked, I thought, so I left it in. So the ethos or the inspiration behind it is a little bit, I suppose you'd say, Zen. It's about water flowing across 7 stones, and I guess the lesson is that once one stone, the water runs over one stone, by the time it runs over the 7th stone in a row, it's clean, it's been cleansed, and I guess the mineral content has been added to the water. So 7 stones running over is a cleansing thing for the river, and it rounds the stones, and it's just one of those nice sentiments that you can take with you. And I hope that was also, it was an older song that I'd written in a back room of somewhere where I was staying, and on an acoustic guitar, got onto the bedroom demo, cassette, and then I'd always thought about that one. I always liked it, and it stayed top of mind, one up there. So I thought it was time to put the electric guitar on it and make it into that little rocky little number there. So that's 7 stones, about 7 stones in the river, cleansing the water. Track 3 on Your Life is Justice, and with that title, it's a love song, and it was something that we played as a rock band on stage, and it was with guitars, right? So it was dang 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 ding 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 ding, and then there was a lead break, a Guitar Hero lead break, and it was all that sort of thing. And then one day at a rehearsal, just for convenience, I was just going through the chords, and it was on the piano, and I was starting to play it on the keyboard, And then the drummer started, ticking along with it. And I just thought, this sounds a lot better on keyboard than guitar, which we played many times. And so I kept that in mind, and when it was time to do the recording or thinking about what to record, I know, I'll get that song, I'll get Justice, and I'll do it on the piano. When it came to some sort of instrumental break, the organ seemed to be the way to go. So the guitar sort of disappeared, and it was a keyboard song. I think after all that time, it had found a nice niche with the keyboards. Simple little song. I just love it, and I think it enhanced it, and the fluency of the keyboards and the organ and everything just seemed to give it the right touch. And that's Justice, track 3 on Your Life. Track 4, Achin for You. The title's pretty self-explanatory, and it started off as a new song, that one, more recently, and it was in the corner of my lounge room where I had a Maton acoustic guitar, and I just started playing the chords or had a feeling for something. What's this? It was a bit Latin-y or whatever, and I found this loop, and I put this sort of loop behind it, and I thought, hey, that's not too bad. It's sort of minor blues, but it's Latin, but it's not anything, something a bit fresher in my mind. And then by the time I kept going with it, I switched over and put the electric guitar on, which is just basically a call and answer with a Les Paul. And then I put some electric piano in there, and there it is. That's Achin for You, track 4 on Your Life. Track 5 is the title track. It's Your Life. It's 7 minutes long, and I wrote it in the corner of my lounge room on the piano. And the lyrics are about, I guess, it could be an ode to self-actualization. During the lockdown, it was a period of self-examination for many, and maybe that's something. And the song is about just working out the best way to live your life. And it kind of seemed to be a bit spiritual type of an idea, and some sort of soul choir in there. I wasn't quite sure. So I tried to work that out and make it interesting. And that's also what's also interesting. I had Paul Richards, a Melbourne-based drummer, do some tracks recording in his studio. So he played on 2 tracks. That's Your Life, the title track, and Lights on the Bay, which is the second last track on the album. And so I think when his drums kick in, it's just a little bit more dynamic and interesting. I think the MIDI drums are very good, but at some stage there needed to be real human playing, rather than me just editing drums like I did for the other tracks. So this adds a bit more life or spontaneity or a surprise that's a bit of a different feel coming in with the drums. And also just a bit of work on the horn section just to make sure that the ending, or as it got to the end, there was a bit of a crescendo and it had a bit of a build. So that was heavily worked on that track, really, and had 2 of us working on it. I corresponded by phone and internet and sent files to Paul, who then did his drum tracks in his studio, and then sent them back to me, and then I just dropped them into my production timeline. So that was it. So track 6, Man on the Run. It's a song that we played in the live band. So in that cover band, originals cover band, Man on the Run was played many times as one of the original songs in our set. So the boys backed me up on it, took it into the studio. They liked it straight away. Drums went down, bass going, everyone's singing it and doing it. So it seemed to just go down really well, and something we played all the time. So it seemed to be accepted really well, as for a few other tunes as well. But for me to re-record that, I thought I'd do it differently and didn't put the drums on this time, and then just put horns in there and made it more of a piano piece. It's more of a sort of an atmospheric. The lyrics are all the same, the chords are still the same. The arrangement's almost the same, except there's a little bit of solo piano in there rather than a guitar break, and it's kind of like moody, atmospheric. It's a ballad sort of treatment, really, and that's Man on the Run. Track 7 is The Tightrope, and that is a song that I wrote on an acoustic guitar in the back room of somewhere where I was staying, and it made it to a bedroom cassette, demo, one of those ones. But it's always been something, and I've played it to other people and thought about that. Played it live a couple of times in some small venue, wherever that was, a couple of times or something like that. Anyway, it's one of those things where it always stays with you, I must record that one. I must put a backing behind that. Wonder what that'll be like. I think that's all right, that one. So for some reason, it's part of your hobby or, ongoing, attempts to try to write something. And there's a lot of songs out there called Tightrope, so I called it The Tightrope. And then I put the backing behind it. But the acoustic guitar went and the electric guitar came in, and that was more like a Strat sound. And then I noticed when it came to the inevitable guitar solo in the song, I just sort of did one take and okay, that's there, good. And then came back later on and did everything on it, and came back and thought, oh well, I'll see if I can do another solo and improve it or whatever. So I tried to drop in another solo, but I couldn't really improve on the original first take, so there must have been something in the air. I think there's a slight timing error in the second part of it, but it's just so spontaneous. It seems to be so nice. I just couldn't get there again. It must be some built-up energy over the years of hearing that song, and then finally I get a chance to do it. I don't know. It's one of those things, but hopefully it's a bit of a groove there. The best sort of type of groove, a world music type of groove. It's maybe the guitar lead sounds like some kind of African guitarist playing, not me. And that's part of the magic of it. And spontaneity sometimes is your best friend, other times your worst enemy when you're recording something. But I think that's sort of something that I remember about The Tightrope. And the song's about taking a risk, basically. Sunday in the Park is a song inspired by an American TV documentary, a late night television show that I was watching, and it stuck in my mind because it focused on homeless people in Central Park in New York. And I just thought, it really had an impact on me, and the lyrics reflect that. And it does feature my Maton Wildcat guitar, which is a pretty rare instrument these days. There's not too many of those made. It's got a carbon fiber back, acoustic electric, and it has a wild sort of sound, all right. A unique sound, I think. Not quite electric, not quite acoustic, and it cuts through. So I was glad to feature that on Sunday in the Park. The solo is the Maiden, and just strumming along in the background, it's there too. So I guess with the whole thing, it was a little bit like trying to create a live feel, like there's a live band playing. So there's some risk-taking on the drums, the MIDI drums. There's a bit more gung-ho sort of guitar work and vocalising to make it sound a bit more live. Like maybe it was a benefit concert in New York for homeless people or something, and it's like something live, I put some sound effects at the beginning, the sirens and the birds tweeting is to do with the person waking up on a park bench in the morning and he's slightly disoriented. And I put uneven measures at the start, so it does sound like it's a little bit stretched for that reason. So the guy's on the park bench and he's waking up with the dawn, and that sort of coming to feeling. And then I just switched quickly into the 4-bar structure again, so that was something I had a bit of fun playing around with just to see what that would do. That's track 8, Sunday in the Park. Track 9 is While the Sun's Still Shining. That's a keyboard song. It's a lost song really, because I wrote it when I was in the band, and it wasn't really anything you could play because they were rockers, we were all doing that rock stuff. Anything that was too quiet, no, not sure, So one of those things, we had certain things we played that were a bit more basic, simple, just as a break in the rock stuff. But this song never made it, and I can't remember whether I even played it to any of the guys in the band anyway. But when I was going through some cassettes, just to seeing what was on them, old cassettes, there was the song "While the Sun's Still Shining," and it was a pretty rough demo, but not bad, And I just thought, oh, that's I forgot all about that. There it is. I forgot completely about that song. Not a shred of recollection about it until I heard it. Then I thought, oh yeah, all the sentiment in that song still applies today. So I wrote it a while back, but I started from scratch and put new keyboard on, new piano, and then I added an accordion on there. I think that sounded right with the strings, and it's like just a solo piano piece with some simple backing. And I think it's just a nice sentiment and still resonates today. So it's a sort of, a bit of a spiritual song, just a solo piano and a nice piece that's a contrast from the other songs that came before it, have got a rock beat behind them and then a bit of contrast there with a quieter song. And that's While the Sun's Still Shining. Track 10 on Your Life album is Honey Child, and that is a song that we played many times live in the rock band. So it was one of those in pubs in Melbourne. So it was one of those bomp, 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 and then there was a big drum. The bass was kick in, and then we had the big drum intro, and drummer loved it, and sort of a funky rock thing, and we did the best we could do with that, and it had that keyboard riff. But of course, after playing it many times, then having some reflection time during the lockdown, that song didn't have a bridge section in it, or a middle eight. It didn't seem to. It needed something, We just played it every time and never questioned it. But I sort of start feeling there's a bit more in there, and there's a bit more to say in the story. So what is it? So after many years, it's a sort of a strange thing to do that you come. It's an archaeological expedition to your old song to see what I can do to add something new to it. It's an extension, on the house, and putting a second story on, or a new garden section area. Honey Child. Then also I needed to figure out the piano riff stayed, the drums are still there, the bass is still there. Even changed the bass line a bit, and then horns had to come into it. So then it was starting to drift into this. What is this? Is it a rock song? Yes, no. It's not hard rock. It's not. Is it soul? No. It's contemporary sort of. What is this? So it was sort of like, almost like, dare I say it, Steely Dan type territory, with the horns, and there's it's a song about a girl and a bit of a groove, and I altered the bass line slightly from the bomper bomper type rock thing, and it was sort of went into that. Still a rock song, I think, but just into a different space, and soul rock thing. I'm not sure. But the lyrics are still the same, and I added the bridge. So the lyrics are new as well, so in that section. So that's Honey Child, and it's slightly whimsical, and I think that's a sort of a nice thing to add some. I think I enhanced it enough to be happy with it, to the point where all the guitar hero stuff went out, all the lead guitar went out, and perhaps it was a relief to not have that in there because it's too predictable, and then the horns were a bit of a refreshing thing to hear in the background, and that's Honey Child. Track 12 on Your Life is When This Song Is Over, and it's a new song, and I wrote it in that corner of my lounge room where there seemed to be some magic. I don't know what it is about that corner of that lounge room. There we are. So it came to me on the acoustic guitar, that Maiden that I talked about, the Maiden Wildcat, just playing along, and it was an acoustic song. And I had a Fender acoustic, and I was playing it on that as well, and then no, it's not quite right. Maybe it's electric. So then I set up the process to put the Stratocaster there, and of course once you start playing that riff, which repeats itself numerous times, guess who it starts sounding like? Yes, Dire Straits. So I thought I wasn't intending to do that, but by the time I put the piano with those low notes, those low bass notes on it, dum dum in the background, we're heading for I don't know if you know the album On Every Street by Dire Straits. A lot of people know it. I sort of felt I was heading in that territory somewhere. So I guess it's sort of like a tribute When This Song Is Over is a tribute to Dire Straits, the way I produced it. I can't say I'm as good as them, but it just seems to reminds me of that style and of Dire Straits On Every Street album, which was, I think, their last album. So the song is to do with, I guess, a thought I had lyrically. It's just a thought about giving up something, and it's just a thought you have. We all have it, Well, I've got this thing now, or I'm in this situation, but having been in this situation, I'm not going to do that again. And it might be anything from playing a sport or a hobby or something, or boating. I've got a small boat, but I've had so much trouble with it, and I'm sick of it. And this is the last time. After I've finished sailing today, that's it. I'm selling it. It's like I'm not going into a small boat again. So they put it back in the shed, and of course next summer they're out there again. It's a nice day. I'll get the boat out. They've forgotten, or they really do sell it, and then they've got a new boat, or just give up altogether. And that could be anything like smoking. This is the last cigarette. I don't smoke, but it's just like, that'll be the last cigarette I ever smoke. That's the end of it. It's the last packet. That's it, whether you do or not, I don't know. But and in the song, it's like, I guess, an assessment thing of where I am with my life and what's happened, and and everyone's got that thing where they're thinking through what's happened. The past may be something that keeps coming back, just a little bit of a reminder of what happened to you in your past, and you're thinking that through what happened, or whether that's led to me now, and I'm here now, but in the future, I'm going to, not do this anymore. So when the song is over, I thought, well, that's just an interesting idea. When the song's over, I'll do something, I'll give away the guitar. No, I'm not going to play any more guitar. That's it, forget it. This is the last song I ever write. This is the last thing. It's no more. That's it. Or this particular guitar, I'm sick of it. I want a better one, I want another one. I'm getting rid of this. So that's the end of it. So when the song is over is about that. And it's a play on words. And as I got through the song, I thought maybe now this song is over because I'm getting to the end. So I had to change the lyrics. So I just had a bit of wordplay fun there. And that's When This Song Is Over. That's track number 10 on the Your Life album. Track 11 is Lights on the Bay, and this is on the second last track on the Your Life album. And for those who streamed it, again, thanks very much, and maybe some little story about that. With this track, it's a minor blues in 6/8. It's very sparse, so the idea was to have the piano there and then build up with that bass. And that bass is, key in the song to hold it all together. And then what happens is Paul Richards comes in and plays absolutely fantastically on this track. I didn't realise what a great job he was going to do. I just appreciate the fact that he would play drums on it, and we corresponded by email and phone, as I explained earlier. Then he did his track. But when I heard it and I dropped it into my production timeline, I was gobsmacked, and it was so good. The build was fantastic, and I've got to give it to you, Paul. That was sensational. So I thank you to Paul Richards, Melbourne-based drummer, who did a great job in his studio, and then I was able to work with that. And I had MIDI drums in there, of course, in the demo, which he heard, but then, of course, what he played on drums, left my MIDI drums for dead, so we don't want to, you don't hear that version. So it's great, and just a really tremendous crescendo, and just to build that up, because it's a long song, and it's like the title track. It's 7 minutes long, Lights on the Bay. So it had two bridges, so there's a verse and a chorus and a bridge, or a middle eight, and then a second middle eight, where I go into the West Gate, and I'm going around the docks and all that sort of stuff. So that song is kind of lyrically telling a story, and it has a bit of an extended story in it. So that's when you're getting to the two bridge scenario, and the bridge is sort of a metaphor again with the ships, and the metaphor is also two very long songs on this Your Life album, 7 minutes each, and they're kind of spaced equally before the end of each side. If it was maybe if you could squeeze everything onto an LP, if you follow me, Your Life would be then Man on a Run at the end of the first side, and then on the second side, the end of the second last track is Lights on the Bay. So this second last track on side one would be Your Life, 7 minutes long, and second last track on side two would be Lights on the Bay, and they kind of are And what I'm leading to is a ballast. They're like balancing each other out because they're 7 minutes long on each side. So it's like ballast. It's a ship metaphor, and I think that kind of ties in with some of the metaphors used in the lyrics on the album. So accidentally, probably, I think. But there we are. So, 7.5 minutes roughly, that Lights on the Bay. But it does tell a story, and it is a story about, lyrically, a story about love, won and lost. And the backdrop is St Kilda in Melbourne, if you know it, the Esplanade. And that is to do with Achin Street, where the trams come in. And if you know that, the shops are there. Go around the corner and there's Luna Park and the Palais Theatre. And if you keep going down the street, you hit the beach. You arrive on the beachfront, and that's where at night, all the dating going on, all lovers going out for dinner and whatever. On a summer night in St Kilda in Melbourne, that's where you see the lights on the water's edge there at St Kilda, and you look north and you see the lights in the docks, the Dockland area. That leads over to the western side of the Docklands, and then down south past the boat marina you can see the lights going right down, and the lights go right down Beach Road all the way down, right along. And you can see, if you go into the raised area behind the clock in St Kilda, you can see the lights going way down right across the bay. And then even on a clear night you can see across to what could be, I suppose, Geelong. You can see the lights seem to go right around. It's a huge bay, Port Phillip Bay in Melbourne. So that's what it's all about. A song about lost, won and lost love, and then the idea of putting some drama in, making it along, and then a tremendous wrap up with Paul Richards drumming, and then I put a Les Paul guitar in the left channel, and then just tweaked the phasing, and it just had that sweet sound, and I thought it's perfect sitting there. Towards the end of the song with Paul's drumming, and it sort of has a sort of a crescendo effect. Even though it's still really basic, the whole thing's very sparse. So we're talking sparse. There's drama in there. I think it was necessary for the drama, solitude, feelings of solitude, the drama, and also, I guess, tension there as well. So that's all there. And I think it just... Paul said, do you want to put lead guitar in there? And I thought, no, just maybe we'll just tail off the album with, we've done a lot of lead guitar. It's almost like you're expecting it. So when you hear that Les Paul come in on left channel, it's kind of like adding to the sparseness and solitude rather than filling it up with too much stuff. And then Paul takes over with the drumming anyway. And I just put a little choir at the end there and then faded it down. So it seemed to stretch and be interesting, hopefully, for the 7 minutes of Lights on the Bay. The last track on Your Life is Lone Soldier. That's track 13. And there is a bit of a story behind that one. It's a piano song with just a bit of strings on it. It's like a little vignette, a little bookend, not too complicated. And I put some French horn, I think it was, French horn, like a bugle type sound in there. And because it's inspired by there around the bay in Melbourne, around the beach anyway, where I grew up, you see these statues, and there's one in particular where there's an Anzac soldier, and this is about the Anzacs, this song, Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. So there's a park, a beachside park, like a reserve, right near the water. So you go, come up from the beach, and there is the lone soldier. He's in a park, and he's there with a bayonet and a slouch hat and his uniform. And one night I was driving past the area, hadn't been in that particular spot for a while, came past, and I noticed it. And it was quite later at night. I think it might have been a band rehearsal, whatever we were doing. And then there weren't many cars on the road, and I just noticed this lone soldier. So it was amazing. They'd cleaned the concrete. It was just usually for years it's just been a concrete soldier there, standing there, with the names of the fallen, of the local brave men who went off to fight, right, in the World War One. So what they did is they must have cleaned the statue, painted it white, and then put floodlights, one on each corner. So at night, it was all lit up, brilliant white. So, and they must have done it more recently because it looked pristine, and I was gobsmacked. So I stopped, got my camera out and the phone, and took all these photos. And of course, when I got there, it was dead quiet. You could hear the lapping of the shore, the waves on the shore. I thought, gosh, and the moon was coming through, a full moon or three-quarter moon through the clouds. It was quiet. There was the occasional car going past, lapping of the water, and I just thought. It was amazing. Imagine that could have been a bit like Gallipoli. The soldiers would have been there. They may have heard the sea, and it's quiet. And a gun could have gone off any time, and or maybe at night the gunshots, quietened down. There might have been, and they'd be on guard though for anyone trying it. After hours, I don't know, gun going off or any strange noises. So they'd be on edge, and it's that feeling like that soldier was really guarding me. And it really choked me up. And it was a beautiful tribute to see that statue redone. And it just really, that soldier almost came to life as if he was actually in Gallipoli at that moment, So I went home and I just had to write the song. And it's a great tribute, I hope, to the Anzacs, a lone soldier. The lyrics are quite self-explanatory. And I think that's one of those things where that experience led into a nice song, and it's a tribute to those brave souls, the Anzacs, Lone Soldier, and that's the last track on Your Life. So thanks everyone who's listened to the Your Life album. It was a lockdown project, and I guess the word lockdown has been used a bit, so it was necessary for me to mention it. We're over it now, and I guess what I've been doing too is another album. So I did keep going after I finished the Your Life album. I thought maybe that I could attempt something else or to see whether I had any ideas. And I have been. I've been recording a new album. So that's nearly finished. So that will be out actually quite soon. And I thought I'd follow it up. It's called Some Days, and that's a 2024 release. So I'm just finishing it up now, mixing it and so forth. And I've put some tracks, earlier mixes, online already. So if you want to check those out, please go ahead, see what you think of them. Again, thanks for listening. Thanks to anyone who streamed the album. I'm Paul Norris, and you've been listening to my Your Life album, I guess, review, a little chat session. And I thank you for listening to it, taking the time out. I know everyone's time's precious. And bye for now.